For our listeners that are like, great, I'm listening to three crazy horse ladies, like whatever, I cannot relate. How do you use your coaching to help women dramatically improve their lives and feel more empowered?
The biggest thing is self-awareness, and that is a really good basic start for everyone. And also curiosity. Start being curious. It gets you back into yourself. It gives you the ability to look at yourself in a real way because the horse is seeing the real you.
When you talked about helping them get back into their bodies, like helping them remember almost
Yes.
who they are, I think that's so powerful and so, so needed for women
Mhm.
at this stage in life. Welcome to Drinks with the Girls, conversations for women over 40 around connection, change, and the power of female friendship. Living well with stories to tell. I'm Karen, and this is Lisa.
We are moms and solopreneurs stepping into our own, diving into real conversations about things that matter to women in midlife.
We're here to spill the tea on everything that affects women in their 40s and beyond. Topics like loss and grief, changing relationships, launching kids, menopause, and reinventing ourselves in midlife. We are here to tackle it all.
Connect with us through a blend of our lived experiences, our friendship, the memory of our moms, plus a collection of real stories, honest conversations, and engaging interviews that will make women over 40 feel seen and remind them that they're not alone on this journey called life. Let's go.
Welcome back to another episode of Drinks with the Girls. We are so excited for this conversation. I have been waiting. I know Lisa's been waiting. It's just going to be a good one. We think you guys are really going to love it. But before we dive in, you know what the drill is. We have to tell you what we're drinking. And today I made myself actually a mocktail. I used a Polar seltzer. It's cranberry lime. And then I added more cranberry juice because it didn't taste good. And then I added fresh lime and ice and a straw, and there you go.
So I am drinking a Recess. Ooh, there we go. Peach and ginger. And I will be honest and say this is my favorite one that I've tried yet. It's a hemp and adaptogen infused sparkling water, calm, cool, and collected. This is probably my favorite one that I've tried. So I'm stoked because I've been on a mission to expand my non-alcoholic horizons.
Our guest today is Sue Willoughby, and she is going to explain to you what she does. It sounds like magic to me, but I'll let her tell you about it. But she does something that is called Equus Coaching. And Sue, give us the rundown. Tell us about it.
Yeah, Equus Coaching. You know what? I'm just going to tell you, it is magic. That's it. We're done here. And I'm drinking water, by the way. I should have grabbed grabbed an NA Athletic Brewing in case you're listening. Out of the
one of my personal faves.
I didn't want to burp through the interview. So back to Equus Coaching. Yes, Equus Coaching in its purest form is connecting humans with horses to help them open up, get back in their bodies, get regrounded, recentered. Because horses connect with people at a really heart-centered level, which is pretty amazing when you think about it. And most people don't understand. A lot of people say, "Oh, I'm so scared of horses. They're so big. They're so powerful," and they are all of that. And I believe both of you are familiar with those amazing animals, but they're prey animals, and a lot of people don't realize that. And they're like, "What do you mean they're prey animals?" I'm like, "They're prey to someone out in the wild." So, every molecule of their body is about self-preservation and about, am I safe? They're just constantly taking in, they're very sensory beings, taking in every little thing around them through all of their senses and processing that like it's data, right? And then they're like, am I safe? Am I not safe? And then when humans are involved, we are predators, thank you very much, then they have to assess, how do I feel about you? How can I connect with you? And all the work that I do, we don't ride. That's not part of the jam. Yeah, I volunteered with therapeutic riding programs, and they are wonderful, absolutely. But what I do is all the coaching activities that I do are on the ground. So you don't need any horse experience. There's no riding involved. It's just person and horse in a space, and I'm on the outside observing, and I'm watching the horse's behavior, and I'm listening to what the person is saying and how they're acting and what they're doing. And then I look at the dance, right, between the two. And it gives me really good opportunity to ask super fun, open-ended questions based on what the horse is telling me about the person. So it is kind of magical,
That
actually.
is
This
fascinating.
sounds fabulous. And Lisa and I both grew up with horses. So we both know how magical horses are in themselves. And it's
Mhm.
interesting because people who aren't familiar with horses, it's like you can't really correlate them to like a cow. You can't really
Yeah.
correlate them to like a dog. It's kind of a
Yeah.
medley of all that, but they are so intuitive and so gentle and sweet, and also could hurt you really badly
Yeah.
if they felt
Yeah.
threatened or if it was a
Yep.
dangerous situation. But I'm just trying to envision the work that you do and how powerful that is, especially for maybe a woman who is even a little bit more nervous to be with a
Mhm.
horse on the ground.
Yeah.
And just, I'm sure at the end, how transformative that is for her.
Yeah. It is really amazing. So, for example, if someone is really feeling uncomfortable, and I may have had a couple of online sessions with them before we meet up with the horse, and that's great. That way I have a little baseline of where they're at. And then I can introduce them to the horse slowly. They can groom the horse, and I also show them how to approach the horse in a safe manner and how the horse operates, right? The horse operating system, fingers are friends, not food. So don't be sticking your fingers in their face. Uh,
Every
and so,
time.
yeah, every time. I love that. But they get an opportunity to just be up close with the person and breathe and get in their body. And I mean, that's the biggest thing, the biggest difference between horses and humans. Horses are in their bodies, they're constantly in the moment. So it's great for teaching that skill, one of many, but it really forces people to be present. I mean, when you're standing next to a 1,200-pound animal, and if something spooks him and he comes at you, it's not because of you. They're just taking care of themselves. Like you
Yep.
said, they're just being a horse. So it's never about the horse, if you get my drift. It's just
Yeah.
about, that's just how they operate. So it's really nice to be able to, you can ease people into it. And if they do feel nervous, horses don't care. That's the beauty of this kind of work, is that horses don't lie, they don't judge. They're just being themselves, and they're trying to understand the nonverbal communication that we are putting out there. And you can talk a blue streak and the horse is like, whatever, I don't care, but they don't care that you're scared or mad or whatever. What they care is that you're being honest with yourself.
Yep.
Is there a typical, not a typical woman, but is there a theme of what women usually want to work with you and the horse with, or is it just different things they come to you for? Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. And the answer to that is it depends. I would say, most of my clients are in midlife, right? And so they are, questioning their current identity. They're questioning where they are in life, what do they have, what is their future going to look like? What are they, or just being able to get out of their comfort zone. They just don't know how anymore. Whatever their identity and their lives have been up to this point, now they're getting to the point, maybe, hopefully, that they're being a little curious, and they're like, I don't know what to do next. I don't know what step to take next. They may have dreams and goals and aspirations, or they may not even know how to do that. So sometimes we're starting at square one, and sometimes we're, somebody's partially down the path and they're just at a roadblock. It could also be someone who is stuck in their career, and there's some point, or maybe they've been in talk therapy or talk coaching for years and years and years, and they're like, you know what, I've been spending a fortune and I am not getting anywhere with this. So they may also come in for one session and have a major breakthrough and be like, oh my God, that's what I was holding on to the whole time. So it can be, any number of things, but it's usually people are curious or they're stuck or they just sometimes people are just curious and want to try something new, which is also fun because they can be a little bit more playful, but it could be just about anything. But that's pretty much, women in their midlife, all the things that we start to encounter when we get to a certain point and we're like, now what?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I was thinking that like what a fun thing for, yeah, when you hit your 40s or 50s or beyond and you're just like, okay, I need to shake some shit up right now. Okay, I'm going to
Yeah,
go do work with a horse.
exactly.
I love
And
it.
you can accomplish so much so quickly because horses will just cut right through it,
Oh
like
yeah.
with like a laser beam. I mean,
Yeah.
how many days have you gone to the barn to be with your horse, even like if when you're a kid or whatever, and you have an agenda? The horse is like, you can
Nope.
have that agenda all day long. I don't care.
Their agenda was always to get me off. I had some
Yeah.
nasty little ponies
Yep.
for a time there.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
had some
Yeah.
interesting agenda horses as well, for sure.
Yeah. But they don't care about your agenda. They really don't because they
No.
don't have one.
Like, what does a typical session look like, or is there one?
Yeah, typically, in terms of if it's a one-on-one session, because I also do group retreats, and those are a little bit different, but they usually still like the first day or whatever start off with an individual coaching session. We're usually in a round pen, and you guys probably know what that is, but for people that don't, it's a metal fence that's in the shape of a circle, so the horse doesn't get stuck in a corner. It can move freely around the outside. I'm sure you've seen it on movies, and the horse is in there totally at liberty. They're able to do whatever they want. There's no halter, no lead rope, unless the person really just wants to try leading the horse. And then we have some leading activities that we can do. Typically the horse is just free to roam around and be a horse. And I'll ask them to set an intention. So whatever it is that they want to work on, what would you like to take away from the session? What would you like to work on when you're in here? Let's say they're having some sort of relationship with their kid, their adult kid, or whatever it is, right? Then I do a safety demo, and then they go into the round pen by themselves, and I'm on the outside so that I'm not a distraction. Now I can be over that fence in about a half a second if it needs be, but usually it doesn't. And then I've shown them a couple of different ways that they can interact with the horse, how to approach the horse, and a couple different things, little tools that they can start to use. The thing about having the horse in there is it's a good distraction, right? For people. They are not up in their head as much. They're like, oh, okay, well, I kind of have a task, right? So they think of it as a task. I'm going to get the horse to move, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do whatever. It's like, okay, have at it. And so I just watch how they approach the horse, what they do, if they're trying to accomplish something, and they use air quotes on that, if they have a little task in their mind that they're trying to do. And I still have their intention in my mind. So I'm watching them, and after a few minutes, if they're frustrated or whatever, and they're kind of just looking at me like, now what do I do? The horse is standing here staring at me. I can't get him to move. And, sort of like, well, what have you tried? And, well, I did this, and then I did this again, and then you did the same thing 6 times and the horse didn't move. I'm shocked, right? Why don't you try something new? It just gets people to think a little bit more creatively. I'm being a little silly and sarcastic about it, but if you it's and you can take that skill out into life, right? Because you're like, I do the same thing over and over and I get the same results. Duh.
Exactly.
So yeah, exactly. So they're either moving the horse around, and sometimes people, if it's really interesting because the horse, I'm holding energetic space for everyone. And the horse is holding space for the human because they're also herd animals. So when you're in their space, you're part of the herd. So they're looking at you to assess whether you're going to be a good leader, should they trust you, and all of those kinds of things. And so they're trying to communicate with you. And if you're trying to communicate with them and they don't understand, then you have to try a different thing because you can't just tell them, no, turn left. Yeah. No, you're
You
other
can
left.
try.
Right. Yeah. Right. But they're like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. We don't hear anything.
Hey there, I'm Lisa Coricella McDowell, your midlife Pacific Northwest princess, here to guide you in the art of next leveling your life. I'm passionate about women's health and wellness in midlife, especially for moms parenting kids with unique needs like I do. I truly believe we can learn, grow, advocate, and care for the planet while taking care of ourselves and our families, and I'd love to help you do the same. Plus, I'm beyond excited to announce the launch of my new membership, the Empowered Parent Collective, this March. It's a space for parents to confidently advocate for their kids, build inclusive communities, educate themselves, and find balance and support along the way. To find out more about the Empowered Parent Collective, my classes, wellness offerings, parenting tips, advocacy resources, and exclusive Drinks with the Girls goodies, head to nextlevellifewithlisa.com. Let's survive and thrive in the messy middle together. Cheers.
So it really encourages people to pull from all of their resources and try new things and get out of their comfort zone. And, for example, I had a client that was, like, I don't know how to have fun anymore. I don't know how to have, I don't feel like there's any joy in my life. I don't know how to have fun. So I'm like, okay, well, let's have fun. What does that look like to you? What does that feel like to you? More importantly, I don't know. I mean, they just got to a point where like, I don't have fun anymore. I work all the time, blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. So they started out by just leading the horse around, and it was like marching, like stiff, holding on tightly to the rope, and the horse is going with them. But, and I watched this for a couple of minutes and I said, are you having fun? Well, is this fun to you? And they're like, no. I was like, well, what would feel more fun? So we took the halter and the lead rope off, and then eventually the person started to get a little bit more playful and try new things. And by the end of the session, they were like skipping around the arena with the horse. And so it can be something as simple as that, like just to be in a different context, to be in a different space with a 1,200-pound animal. My horse happens to be 1,200 pounds. He's very big. His name is Moose. But sometimes we work with minis, and minis are like, 2.5 feet high, 3 feet high. They're full-on horses. They think they're Clydesdales, but they're really fun to work with. But sometimes people will just be very emotional, and they may just go stand in the middle of the arena and just cry or do something. And the horse typically will come right up and stand right behind them or right beside them very quietly and just stand there and hold space for them. That's amazing.
That gives me goosebumps.
I know, right?
It is.
Yeah.
So, okay, I feel like we need to take this way back. I kind of want to understand like how you got to this place, right? So I know that you've said that horses helped you through some of the darkest periods of your life. Mm-hmm. Can you take us back to one of those times about, how being around horses made a difference? Like, what was it that made you realize that the power of engaging with horses for personal development was like a thing? Like we know, right? We've been around horses, but what made you kind of come to that conclusion that you could use this as a coaching tool?
Yeah, let me just go back a little bit further than that. So
let's take it way back.
Well, I was born in when I was a kid, and I had an alcoholic parent, and so when I was a kid, I don't know, I'd always loved horses from the time I was just little itty bitty. I just thought they smelled cool. I loved their noses, everything about them, and as I got a little older, I wanted to take riding lessons, and I just wanted to go to the barn all the time because guess what? That was like my happy place. And I would get on the horse. I'd get on any horse, bareback, ride it, flat out, gallop to the backfield, whatever. I'd sit and eat their grain. I mean, because it tasted really good. It was that molasses stuff. Do you remember that? Right?
Sweet
I'm
feed.
Like, oh, there's a juicy bit. Let me suck on that. I just loved the way they smelled. I love listening to them too. I mean, some of your listeners might be, this woman is crazy. Are you sure she's just drinking water? So, I mean, it was my happy place. And then just throughout my life, like when I was a teenager and we moved to Connecticut from upstate New York, I noticed that there was a riding stable across the street from the apartment complex we were living in, and the car was barely stopped. And I was out the door across the street begging this grizzly old guy to let me, clean stalls just for the privilege of riding, because we didn't have a lot of money. And he did. Finally, I wore him down. And he's like, sure, I don't want to do this. So, but they've always kind of come along. They find you. Right? I had some friends say to me at one point, they're like, "Hey, we got a free horse for you." And I'm like, "There's no such thing. Great, but thank you anyway." So that horse came into my life, and shortly thereafter I was kind of on the cusp of a 14-year breaking up a 14-year relationship. I got broken up with, just for clarification. Anyway, uh so this little horse that I got, she was an Arab, and she was at a reining barn. And for those of you who don't know what that, there's a lot of Western-y stuff, and she is kind of a princess, so she was not happy there.
Yeah.
She was sweet though, and then no, she wasn't exactly sweet. She was kind of sassy and very smart. So
Yeah.
she had been passed around from owner to owner to owner, and I got her, and she was gray, and she had dark gray skin, so they're either pinkish or they're gray. And I noticed that she had depigmentation around her mouth and around her eyes. And I thought that was kind of weird. I'm like, is that normal? I don't know. Long story short, I moved her from that barn to a smaller barn where there was only 2 other horses. And I looked at her one day, and I was looking at some pictures that I had from when I first got her, and the depigmentation had gone. It was stress related. I
Oh
was
my
like,
goodness.
whoa, it was crazy. So she came into my life at a time when I needed her. Clearly, she needed me. And then I got her to be a nice, productive little citizen again and not eject small children.
Right.
And then I spent many summers when I was a teenager, late teens, early 20s, at a summer camp for individuals with special needs, mostly younger individuals, in their quote unquote therapeutic riding program, which I didn't even know at that point what that was. And then later on in my adult life, I volunteered at another therapeutic riding program here in the Seattle area. And I mean, I had seen it and I had experienced it. I couldn't put a name on it, and I couldn't really put that, that pin in it. Like, oh, it just feels good, right? And then I found through my crazy little zigzag path, I found my way to Equus Coaching, and I just haven't looked back since. So it was really incredible adventure.
Seems like the perfect fit for you.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
So, okay, for our listeners that are like, great, I'm listening to 3 crazy horse ladies, like, whatever, I cannot relate. What is something that a woman learns about herself when you're in the presence of a horse? Like, how do you use your coaching to help women dramatically improve their lives and feel more empowered?
Yeah. I'm glad you said empowered, because it really, if they can learn some really just basic skills, and I think for me, a lot of the core of what I do and the core takeaway I want people to have is to build self-awareness and patterns that you have developed and stories that you come up with, because people will come into the arena and they'll spew all the stories that they're bringing with them. It's like, okay, where's my bag of stories? Oh, here's one, here's one, here's one, here's one. And guess what? They try and transfer it, or they try and, put it onto the horse. The horse doesn't like me. The horse doesn't, whatever. So the biggest thing is self-awareness. And that is a really good basic start for everyone. And also curiosity. Start being curious. And it also, so curiosity, self-awareness, being a beginner again, trying something new and being able to look at things with fresh eyes. And when you can kind of put some of those things together, like little turtle steps, little baby steps, we call them turtle steps, it gets you back into yourself. It gives you the ability to look at yourself in a real way, because the horse is seeing the real you when you're in the arena. You can't hide behind. The horse doesn't care if you have a, $300 million Bugatti that you drove into the barn. They don't care. They don't care what you're wearing. They don't care how you look. They don't care if you're happy or sad. They just care that you can be with yourself and with them in a real way. So by doing that and building those skills and starting to be more self-aware, and I will use that word mindful. I think it's a little overused. So it's like, okay, we got to come up with a new word. But that's part of awareness and part of curiosity. And if you're at a certain point in your life as a person in midlife, a woman in midlife, and you don't know what to do, a lot of it is going to be fear-based, that you're afraid to start something new because I'm going to look stupid. What are people going to think about me? I can't be a beginner again. I can't start an entry level thing. I can't do that. I can't, la, 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 on and on. So this gives people the opportunity to explore those things, explore being a beginner. If you don't know anything about, and here's the other thing I will say, you do not need horse experience to do this work, because people say, oh, you just work with horse people. No. As a matter of fact, hardly ever.
This is ringing some bells because we did an episode basically about learning new things and the psychology behind that and why it's so important in midlife to have different experiences and stretch yourself and keep that neuroplasticity going on. So we're right there with you on that one.
That's good. Yeah.
The thing that is, coming up for me is just that presence, just being present, just being in that moment, because women at this stage in life have so much. They have so many plates spinning in the air and they are exhausted and overwhelmed. So I think helping them just get back to themselves just through that presence, just being moment to moment. I'm kind of rambling. I don't know really where I'm going, but I think, when you talked about helping them get back into their bodies, like helping them remember almost who they are.
My name is Karen Shatafian, and I am a shameless coffee addict and empowerment coach for women, and my love language is authenticity. My mission is helping women unapologetically design a life they're in love with. Because what the hell are we waiting for? My website, KarenShatafian.com, has all my coaching packages and free offers like my Midlife Reclamation Guide. In it, you'll find tools to help you decide how to create the most inspired and empowered version of yourself and your life. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram talking about ways women can show up for themselves after decades of showing up for everyone else. Join me as we throw off the shackles and live our best freaking lives. See the show notes for all the details. Cheers.
I think that's so powerful and so, so needed for women at this stage in life.
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on with that. And it is a very somatic experience because our bodies do, right? They keep score and they know exactly what has happened to us. And it's all sitting in there waiting to come out in some way. And it may come out in illness. It may come out in tears. It may come out in anger. It may, whatever, boil over somehow. And if you can approach that from a calmer, more centered, more grounded place, then you have the ability to deal with things better. I'm speaking from experience. I used to be a horrible person. I mean, I'll be honest, I wasn't the nicest person. And I don't mean like just mean, but just not, I was very self-centered, not in a good way, and judgmental, and just all of those things that are not very attractive. And from working with horses and just being on a spiritual journey for the past, 15, 20 years, it's been a while, I've learned, and it's all been baby steps. It's not going to happen overnight. So if you, like I said, start building those, that awareness and just feeling what it feels like. So if something's coming up for you, I ask people, are you comfortable sitting in that? Whatever it is that's coming up. Like, how are you feeling? What are you feeling through this interaction with the horse? I feel mad. What does mad feel like? Get them back in the feels. What does it feel like? Because you can say mad all day long, but it lives in your body somewhere, and you describe it. Where do you feel it? How does it? What happens when you get mad? And then you can start to gauge those kind of reactions. What that feeling is like. Oh, I know it's coming. I know it's coming. I'm gonna blow. So you can get things before they escalate. Right? Once you start to identify what's happening inside you, then you can start to regulate a little bit better and take a pause before you react to something, before you scream at somebody, before you whatever. So it's really important work that we do that, however you do it, whether you do it with a horse, whether you do it with me, whether you do it by yourself or with a different type of coach, a somatic coach or something. It doesn't matter, but it's really important to be able to regulate, especially, finding the calm in chaos. I like to kind of focus on equanimity. That's a little bit of my specialty because there's so much craziness going on in the world today and we don't know what to expect. And if we can find a place of calm in, be the eye of the storm, or be in the eye of the storm at least, or try to, then we can have the resources and have the energy to help those around us. And that's kind of the way I look at it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Is Moose your only? You talked about the minis too. So are all the horses that you use your horses, or do you have
So
friends or a barn or something that you use, or their horses?
yeah, I have Moose, and he is my personal horse, and he actually loves to coach. He'd much rather coach than be ridden. He's told me that a few times. But I work with a couple of rescues in the area, and it's really fun to work with the rescue horses because they've gone through their own stuff, right? They may have gone through trauma, they may have
Right.
gone through neglect, they may have
Yep.
gone through whatever, and they really love being called upon to be supportive. And it's
Oh
really,
My
God.
God. Oh my
I
God,
got a
we're
little
dying
on
here.
that myself. I'm like, oh my God.
Oh man, Sue. Ugh. That
Okay.
is so incredibly powerful. I keep using that word, but I just can't.
I-
speechless.
Karen knows this. I did my master's thesis. I got a special education degree, and I did my master's thesis on animal assisted therapy, and the title
nice.
of it was the Bucephalus Project. Do you know who Bucephalus was?
Mm-mm.
I said this on the podcast before, but essentially he was Alexander the Great's horse, and his father
okay.
gave him the horse, and the horse was insane, right? And he was like, all right, well, you got to figure out how to ride him if you want to keep him, so enjoy, right? And they had this very tight bond. But I wanted to talk about that give and take piece, and that was all in the research that I did. Like there's programs out there where inmates work with wild horses. That whole like reciprocal relationship is just so fascinating to me.
I want to drop a little thing here. I've had someone on my podcast, Dana Crusher, and her partner, Chrisanna. They have a film. I went to the world premiere a couple of weeks ago. The name of the film is called Rescued Hearts. Look it up. The trailer's online. They're starting to release it. They're doing private screenings, or they're showing the first half of the movie. But it's a really beautiful film, and it's really illustrates beautifully the give and take between horses and humans. There's a number of documentaries out there like that, but this is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful film. Seriously.
Do you have like a coaching moment or a particular client that you've worked with, or a particular horse, or just something that stands out with you in your work that is the pinnacle of kind of what you do?
Oh gosh, I don't know that I could put that on one particular moment, but so we do a lot of our we did a lot of our training, and we do retreats out of Paso Robles, California. There's a beautiful private ranch down
I
there.
love that area. It's so gorgeous.
Yeah, it's out near Lake Nacimiento. And when I was going through my training, I did a lot of my training there, and it was really fun. They have a beautiful herd of horses that they're so tuned into everybody. It's just really incredible. And I was actually doing a retreat myself, and there's this one horse. His name is Chase. When he first came there, you couldn't catch him. You had to be like you couldn't just go grab him out of the pasture. It took like an hour because he was like, he was just very timid. And I remember the first time I worked with him as a coaching student, I just like, you could feel his tension. His whole body was rigid. And so like you go up to just get close to him and touch his shoulder, and he'd be like, don't touch me. So of course, if you're bringing any fear into that relationship, right, he's going to mirror it even more. So by the time we were doing our own retreats there, they had also been doing a lot of work with him. And so for me, they said, why don't you go get Chase? Because they knew I had a little thing with him. I loved him, and I wanted to just he's this beautiful Palomino. And I'm like, okay. So I had to really ground myself and be like, it's okay. Whatever we have to do, we will do, and we'll just do it on his time frame. And he let me walk right up to him, put the halter on him, and I just stood there for a minute because I was in shock. I was like, oh my God. And I brought him back, and I was like, wow, okay. I think we've both come a long way, not just him. It was really interesting. And I just was like, we both kind of went, we were just big release. I'm like, okay, let's go back to maybe his name was Chance. I think it was Chance, not Chase, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, that was really interesting because it does take some horses, who knows what they've been through, a long time to trust. And that's why I was saying, working with the rescue horses, some of them have just been their owners can't take care of them or whatever, but some of them had been from some really unpleasant situations. And you really have to nurture them and bring them back around. So that was one incident or one thing that I can think of. Another one is I just love the fact that horses are really good with teaching people boundaries.
Can you elaborate on that?
Most people, once they get in there with the horse, they just want to snuggle with the horse, So if the horse is walking close to them or standing really close to them, they think it's cool. They're like, oh, this is awesome. And then the horse gets a little closer. And then the horse starts to nudge them with their head. Now, my horse has a really big head, and he's given me a concussion by flinging it at me. But they might nudge you a little bit. They poke you with their nose or something. And then it gives me the opportunity to say, how does that feel? Oh, it's so cute. He's just rubbing up against me. Okay, let's see how this goes. And then the next thing you know, the horse is like chewing on their coat or doing something else. And I said, now how does it feel? And they said, not great. I feel a little like my space has been invaded. Okay, tell me about that. And they may say something like, yeah, I have this problem a lot. I don't know when to say no to people. I don't know how to set good boundaries. I don't know how to whatever. And the horse is like, told ya.
Horses know.
Yeah, they do. And a lot of it is people are afraid to push people away or just be able to say, no, I'm sorry, this is my space. I have a second podcast called The Air is Free, and we do a lot of talking about boundaries on there because I do it with another Equus coach. But it's hard for people because they think if they push somebody away or if they say, no, this is my space, then that person isn't going to like them, right? So I said, let's work on that in here with the horse. Why don't you try sending the horse away or setting a boundary with him? Oh, I don't want to hurt his feelings. I'm like, why don't you try it and see what happens? And so it's really good space to kind of work through those things. And the horse is like, okay, I get it. I was just testing you, I know I wasn't supposed to be in your space, but you didn't tell me no. And then once you say no, then you can say, how does that feel? It feels better. It feels like I can ask the horse to come near me or I can come near them. I said, here's the question. Would you run up to that horse, throw your arms around him and just like give him a big old hug? And you've never seen this horse before in your life. And they're like, no. You may want to, but they're like, no. I'm like, okay, well then how does it feel when somebody does that to you and you don't like it and you don't say no? Because the horse will say no, and no is a complete sentence. Yeah,
we did a podcast called that.
So did I. Mm-hmm.
We also did a podcast on female friendships and how hard it is sometimes when we get to this age, because we are conditioned to be liked as women. It's like that's you want to be the good girl and you want people to like you, and if they don't like you, oh, what does that mean? And oh, it's terrible. And and then you get to this stage in life and you're like, God, I've been putting up with so much crap. Just because we don't want to set the boundary or we don't want them to not like us or whatever.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
but
so I
love
how
you keep it in.
Yeah, exactly. And you think something's wrong with you, but I love that you can do that with the coaching that you do, kind of through the back door, or kind of like not, like you said, you're not just sitting across talking to a therapist or a coach about your boundaries. You're working through it in a way
experiential.
That is experiential. There we go. Yes.
Yeah, because so you can't, there's no lie that a 1,200-pound animal is like stepping on your foot, right? You don't want that to happen, but or that they're trying to be pushy with you. Yeah, we all have.
Okay, quick pause. Have we talked about the Pod Squad lately?
Oh, the Pod Squad. You mean our email list /VIP lounge /digital wine club?
Exactly. So listeners, if you're not on it yet, you're basically making life harder for yourself. when it comes to podcasts.
Like trying to scroll for show notes while speed walking on a treadmill. Wait, what was that link again? Oh, no. Grab the side rails.
Or pulling up that book we mentioned while you're in the Starbucks line and then realizing everybody else moved up 3 cars and now you're that woman.
We've all been there. That's why we made the Pod Squad. You'll get new episode alerts every week with direct links. Easy to listen, easy to share.
And show notes straight to your inbox. So when we drop a life-changing product, book, hot tip, or yummy new drink, you're not rummaging through your memory like a woman searching for her reading glasses when they're on top of her head.
It's organized, it's helpful, it's for you, babes.
So join the Pod Squad. The link is in the show notes. Just tap it.
Snacks, sarcasm, solidarity.
And obviously, fighting the patriarchy.
We write at dawn.
There's so many things. Leadership is another great one because you know how horses are. They will look to you for leadership. And if you're not providing it, then they'll be happy to take the leader role. And you may not want that to happen.
Right. Exactly. Right.
You should come to one of our retreats. It'd be fun.
I was thinking that. Do you do them in Paso Robles?
I do. I have in the past. I've got several different locations that I can work out of, but that's kind of our go-to spot because it's set up for coaching. The horses are great and the setting is beautiful. So that's, I have one scheduled in October there. So it'll be fun.
Oh, I got to check it out.
Yeah.
Lisa,
it's
what
on
do you
my
think?
website.
Oh, yeah. Girl, I'm so in.
Yeah.
Road trip. I'll meet you in the middle.
Bring your friends.
Yeah. So can we talk a little bit about all the other hats you've worn over your life?
Oh my God.
I
many
just
hats.
think I think that your journey is fascinating. So do you mind talking a little bit about kind of that?
No, not at all. And, honestly, that is part of the reason that I can be helpful to women to get out of their comfort zone. The way I grew up, my comfort zone was discomfort, basically, because I never knew what was going to happen. So it made me fiercely independent to the point where it was not, it's okay to be independent, but you can't do everything yourself. And it also, though, allowed me to be very, very curious about things and be like, okay, and I probably have undiagnosed ADHD. I don't know. But it's like if something interested me, I'm just going to do it. I just want to try it. I'm just going to, hey, let's do this. Let's do this. So some of my jobs, some of my, and they weren't full on careers. They were just things I wanted to do. And I know what you're referring to, but I mean, I was a bartender and a DJ for a number of years. I even worked in a strip club as a bartender and a DJ. Just want to clarify that. I was a roller derby referee. Nice. I've driven in 2 demolition derbies. And actually the second one that I drove in, I came in first runner-up and got a trophy and $100 and a concussion. So there you go.
Well, there you go. The complete trifecta.
I've flown airplanes. I have my private pilot's license. I've jumped out of airplanes, which I thought I would never do.
Oh my God.
Yeah, a little bit of everything. Let's see, what do I left out? A lot of things. I drove a limousine. I drove a taxi. Yeah, pretty much anything that kind of, 2 years ago, I wanted to learn how to play polo. So I started taking polo lessons. Now, I don't compete. I don't do any of that. I'm more just like a stick and ball person. So it's just fun. It is hard though, you're riding the horse at a certain speed, even if it's at a trot with a stick and you're going to hit a ball that's on the ground. What the heck? Who thought that up?
What could go wrong?
I'll tell you what could go wrong.
Right.
I'll tell you right now.
She's going to be like, and let me tell you.
And you could fall off and shatter your wrist.
Oh, yummy.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
It was my fault. I got rushed to the hospital. We were in a little tiff. And here's the thing with polo. And if you've ever watched polo, when they miss the ball, they keep going. You do not stop. You do not try and reach back or do something stupid like that, which I did. I was getting a little aggressive. I reached back. And when I did, I pulled the horse up off the ground and I went on the ground. Oof. And I had my polo stick wrapped around my wrist and yeah, it was pretty nasty.
Oh,
so God, I feel that.
Yeah, I know. Sorry. Anyway, but yes, do explore things. Get out of your comfort zone.
Just don't break your wrist.
Yeah, just don't break your wrist.
I know.
I think it's very, very common for women in midlife to feel that stuckness,
Mhm.
that stuck feeling. So what would you say is just a quick and easy thing they can do to get out of their comfort zone? Because you seem like you're an expert at it.
Without breaking their wrist.
Yeah, without bodily injury.
Right. I would say, to get out of your comfort zone, start doing little tiny things that might be challenging. And I'm not talking about something that Tim Ferriss would suggest, like laying down in the middle of a busy sidewalk in New York City
Good Lord.
and seeing what happens. He's kind of crazy. But sorry, Tim, if you're listening.
Yeah.
But try doing little things like a lot of people get in routines. I mean, we all have our routines, or we have the same restaurant, we do the whatever. Try something that makes you feel just a tiny bit uncomfortable, whatever that is. Maybe it's taking a different route home from work. Maybe it's going to a restaurant by yourself. And that's kind of actually a big one for some people. Sit at a table by yourself and have dinner without your phone in front of you.
Ooh, now you're talking crazy.
Right. Now I'm talking crazy. Maybe the first time you try it with your phone. But try something that, you're like, God, I wish I could do that. Or if everything was perfect, then I would do this. Well, what else can you do? So start being curious. If there's something that is kind of like, niggling at you, kind of like, hey, what about me? What about me? Something that interests you. Like maybe you want to take a course or something or whatever. Like, I want to be a sommelier. Okay, well, there's a lot of training involved. Maybe go to the wine store and talk to somebody, or you work in the wine store. I don't know, whatever. But find something that is small. Just take a little baby turtle step. Whatever that is, take a different route home from work. Wear a color that you're not used to wearing. If you're stuck wearing black all the time, like me, wear a red shirt once in a while. Just something that's going to, get a new haircut. If you had the same hairstyle for the past 50 years, try something new. And, take a class. Just do something different. And if it makes you feel a little uncomfortable, good. How does it make you feel uncomfortable? Once again, go into your body. Does it make you nervous? What's the worst thing that can happen? What is the worst thing that can happen? You're going to be scared. You're going to be nervous. You might meet somebody new. You might have a really good meal. You might take a different way home and see a house that you've never seen before that's for sale. And you're like, oh my God, I love that house. Who knows? You don't know. But if you stay in your bubble, if you stay in control of everything and you don't get out of that, then you're missing so many things, so many incredible things out there.
Absolutely. Such good advice. I love it.
Okay, so I have a couple questions.
Okay.
So my first question is, like, Karen and I are all over this, right? But there's a lot of women out there that maybe possibly stopped listening 15 minutes ago and were like, these people are freaking crazy. Like, there's no way I'm going to be around a horse. I am a basket of nerves. There's no good that comes from that. Like, what would you say to those women?
I would say you need to get out of your comfort zone. I would say that, you're telling yourself a story, and that story is that you're afraid of something, so you're not even going to give it a chance. I would say that you're being a little judgmental. And I'm not berating anyone. I'm just saying that, think of the stories that you're telling yourself about whatever it is, whether you hear something, whether you're doing something. Why are you telling yourself that story? Why, if you are a bundle of nerves, why are you a bundle of nerves? Once again, I'm back to the curiosity. Get curious about why, you wouldn't want to try something. And it's not for everybody, but I will say that it's interesting. For example, at a retreat, sometimes people will come and they'll bring a buddy. Usually the buddy is someone that is the person that tuned out 15 minutes ago and has no desire to be there. And they're like, okay, I'm coming. I'll be supportive. And guess who has the biggest shift? Not the person that wanted to come in the first place. It's the person that tuned off from the podcast 15 minutes ago that didn't want to come. They're like, that was amazing.
Okay, so then that begs the question, right? So if we've gotten past that point, and I'm someone who doesn't live in California or Oregon or Washington, I live in Florida or Massachusetts or whatever. How do people go and find out about Equus Coaching if I definitely want to talk about how they can find you, but just in general,
Yeah.
what is the best way to do that?
Yeah, they can go to the Center for Equus Coaching's website, and I'll give that to you so you can put it in the
Great.
show notes. And we have a full directory of Equus coaches all over the country and all over the world. And there may be some other variation on it near you or something, but you could probably just Google it, and it may not be called Equus Coaching. It may be called equine assisted coaching or something like that. But yeah, you can definitely go to our institute website and find coaches in your area.
Is it the same thing as hippotherapy?
No, so hippotherapy and things of that nature fall into the therapeutic riding.
Okay, so that's
arena.
a big difference then. That is you're on the horse versus, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's different. And there is also EGALA, which is actually equine assisted therapy. Now, I'm not a licensed therapist. I'm a coach, which is different. But there are therapists, and if you are in therapy or are thinking about therapy rather than coaching, you may look at the EGALA website. It's equine assisted therapy. So usually there's three people. There's a therapist, there's the client, and then there's a horse and a horse handler. So the therapists themselves might not be trained to do the work. I just had someone on my other podcast who is a licensed therapist and is now an Equus coach. And she really likes the coaching because she's like, I'm not telling you, you have all the answers. And this is the truth, right? With coaching, we're not telling you what to do as coaches. We're helping you find the answers that you already have. So that's the big difference between coaching and therapy. There's resources where you can find people that do what I do. Or you can just come to Seattle. I'm just kidding.
That's sounding very good, actually.
Yeah, I'm all in. Just let me know,
Yeah.
Karen. Pack a sleeping bag. Let's go.
Right?
Yeah.
So before we go and before, we let our listeners know how they can find you specifically, Sue, because I know you're kind of out there. You have a couple podcasts. I know you're on Instagram. You have a website. What is one key thing that you really want our listeners to make sure that they leave this episode with regarding Equus coaching and kind of what we talked about today?
Yeah. I think that, I hate to sound like a broken record, but I really do think it's important that we start to listen to our bodies and be curious about how we are feeling. And when we are feeling a certain way, get curious about it. Take that in. It's just information. It's not anything to be afraid of, but treat it like information, because that's what horses do. They take in the information, they let it go. And that's the other thing. When we can learn to let things go, so you bring the information in, you process it, and then you can let it go in a better, more reasonable, calm way. So I would say that, be the horse.
So where can people find you on the interwebs?
Interwebs. Yes, I'm in the interwebs. I'm also in the inner tubes. WilloughbyCoaching.com is my website. My podcast is currently called A Life Worth Being, and it's about to be rebranded at the end of the month. I just hit 1 year, celebrating 1 year this month.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Woo-hoo.
It's so fun. I love it. And I'm going to be doing a little rebranding. So in July, we're going to relaunch. I'm also on Instagram, Sue_Willoughby. And my podcast, like I said, is A Life Worth Being. And I'm kind of all over the place.
So you have the retreats and you do the one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else, any other ways people can work with you?
Yeah, I also do online. So speaking of being the horse, I do bring a lot of horse wisdom to the coaching that I do. So I offer online coaching. And if someone is curious about the work that I do or the coaching that I do or my methodology, they can always set up, I call it, guess what? A curiosity call. So they can go on my website and set up a 20-minute call. And it's not a sales call. It's like, this is what I do. This is where we're at. These are the things that I have that, if they fit, they fit. If they don't, they don't. Great. Let's see if we can get you somewhere that does. And it's not a coaching session. It's just would this be a good fit for you? And would you be a good fit for me? Because I'm not everybody's coach. So there's that.
Yeah, definitely. You got to find the right match. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
this
thank
has
you
been
so much,
so
Sue.
cool.
This is so fun.
Thank you. I'm
Such
so
a
excited.
great episode. And I know that the listeners stayed till the end. I know that they're all still
Absolutely.
with us.
We love our listeners.
We weren't shaming anybody. We weren't shaming. I don't do that.
Absolutely not. And thank you so much, listeners, for joining us. Thank you, Sue. This has been our pleasure. And you never know, maybe you'll see us at one of your retreats.
We'll do a live broadcast. How fun would that be?
That would be so fun. Yeah, that would be so
Well, listeners, you know the drill. We love you. We are so excited to have this community. Please share. Please like. Please give us a review. We keep harping on that because the algorithm just loves the reviews. And make sure you like, share.
Thank you, listeners. As always, we love having you here for another conversation with Drinks with the Girls. And we will catch you next time. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.